Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Scenic Route with me, Victoria Stewart, where we talk about maybe the road less traveled in all of our experiences and or the road unexpected, where it veers off of where we thought we were going in our lives. And what an amazing journey most of us have been on, especially once you get off the track you thought you were on. So I'm excited to have Lizbeth Marquez here today, multi-passionate and fellow podcast host. Her show with her co-host is called Work Drama. So, Lizbeth, would you like to introduce yourself a little better?
Yeah, hi Victoria. Thank you so much for being on. First off, I'm excited to share kind of like all the windy roads that my my journey kind of took me on. So I'm pretty much I'm a podcast host, which is still weird to say, for work drama. I'm currently also building a brand strategy business, more in like consulting. I'm gonna have a background in entrepreneurship. Been an entrepreneur for going on 8 years now.
Hmm.
But I spent almost 20, well, not almost, a little over 20 years actually in the medical field. So that's really like my biggest background is the medical field. And, that was kind of like safe in the moment. I started when I was 15, just kind of doing charting through a job I got through school, and it felt safe.
Yeah.
So I kind of stayed in it for a long time. Um, let's see, what else can I say just for my intro? I'm also a mom. I have a 19-year-old daughter who's in college. And yeah, right now I'm kind of focused on, she's in college, she's grown, she can kind of take care of her own self and my fiance. So kind of focusing on me, my partner, and kind of like, what do I want to do now? What are my passions and how do I get into that? So yeah, kind of what about
That's
you?
so cool. I really resonate because I worked for the Navy for 20 years and you were like in the medical field for 20 years. Granted, I started when I was 23, not
Mhm.
15.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, well, it's actually over 20 years when I count like those teen years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. So, thinking back to yourself, maybe as a kid, teenager, when you started working in the medical field, doing the charting, everything else, where did you see yourself going? Did you see yourself staying in the medical field or what were
I
you
did
dreaming into?
not. I did not. It's funny because when I got the job, I was 15, right? I actually wasn't
Mhm.
even looking for a job because
Yeah.
technically, at least in Connecticut, I can't work until I'm 16. But I had a teacher, a business teacher, who knew I spoke Spanish, and there was an office in town that needed somebody bilingual, and somebody to do their charting, and they were just looking for a student. So she asked me, I actually just happened to walk into like the school store to buy some candy. And she's like, Elizabeth, you speak Spanish, right? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And she's like, you want a job at the eye doctor's office? I'm like, yeah, that sounds better than McDonald's, right? So I'm like, sure. So it was after school, just a couple hours. And, gave me a little money in my pocket. And it was, I was only like 2 hours after school, Monday through Friday. So it was just easy. Did not expect it to be this like 20-year run. I actually was very creative in school, very kind of like artsy. And in my senior year, my art teacher convinced me to go into school for something art related.
Yeah.
Um, at the time, I was thinking I would go into marine biology, so like very different than
Hmm.
artsy, because I love science as well. But then my art teacher really convinced me, saw my talent or whatever. So I ended up going to college for 1 semester for interior design. And that's what I thought because I really like design and stuff. So I was like, that's where I thought my future was gonna be.
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm gonna have a show on HGTV, right? And it's
Hmm.
gonna be called whatever, and like I'm gonna be designing houses. Like that was my vision.
Yeah.
But then my parents couldn't afford a second semester of college. I actually like at the end of the semester, they're like, we can't afford to pay. I think it was like $4,000 for the room, like housing there.
Hmm.
And so they're like, you're gonna have to come back home. And so that was really like difficult to be like, oh, I
Wow.
just started this like career in college, right? And I thought this was the direction, and now I have to go back home because my parents can't afford to send me to college. And then in that time frame, I was 18, I ended up getting pregnant. And so I'm like, okay, well now things are really shifting. I'm 18, I'm gonna have a baby. I was thinking I was gonna go back to a community college because my mom actually worked at a community college. And so the way that'll be cheap and easy. And now pregnant, I was like, okay, I really have to double down. Like, what am I going to do? I ended up getting a job back at the eye doctor's office where I was. They were like, yeah, come on back. So stayed there for a few years while I went back to school. And I figured when I was doing community college, I ended up going for an associate's in science with a concentration in medical assistant. So I figured the medical field is safe, right? Like I'm gonna need like a safe job. I'm gonna have a kid, right? Like what makes sense right now, right? Interior design and being on HGTV is not the vision right now. So I had
Right.
to kind of like, yeah, right now, right? Has yet to happen, but we'll see. So yeah, I ended up going back to that office, and then I just kind of stayed there. Went to school for medical assisting, and then I applied for another job. I kind of got tired at the eye doctor's office, and
Yep.
applied to another job for like the front desk. But then they hired me as a medical assistant because they knew I was going to school, so I was able to kind of get in the door that way, and that was great. And then that's just kind of where I stayed. At that moment, though, the vision was to become a PA. I was like, okay, well, then if I'm gonna,
Hmm.
for me, it was like I want to do something big where I'm like either helping people or doing something like I don't know. I just the medical assistant role wasn't the goal, right? So I'm like, okay, so if I'm gonna stay in the medical field, then this is the position I want. So I worked through that. Went back to school after I graduated with my associates, and did a few years, got more experience, and then ended up moving back with my parents to go back to school for my 4-year degree, which ended up being a biology degree. Because I thought, okay, then now I'll be a PA and I'll do research in Alzheimer's. That was like my next goal. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I love science and I love research. And I really realized that through college, through like being
Hmm.
a biology major and doing the labs and all the things. I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
really like fun and I love this. So I'm like, I'll do the medical aspect and the research aspect. And then that didn't work out because I ended up getting my degree, did all these extracurriculars, all these things to kind of make my application look great. Really missed out on a lot of years with my daughter because of it, because I have school in the
Yeah.
morning, work like a part time at urgent care in the evening, and weekends, homework, right? And the extracurriculars. I was like part of the um, health society club or whatever at the college. I was volunteering, everything to make my application look good.
Yeah.
And so I kind of missed out on a lot of time with my daughter. Every time I look back, I just feel so bad that I didn't make it because of the sacrifices that I did. But the thing was, I ended up applying to different PA schools for the next 3 years or 3 cycles, I should say. And we could like almost like by like twice a year, I think you can do it. So I did 3 cycles. They all cost money. All the schools that you apply to cost money. So I was starting to
Yeah.
like, okay, am I going to move out of my parents' house and just do something else, or do I keep applying until I'm broke? And because I had saved
Mm.
up a bit while living with my parents. And it got to a point where I had to realize, like, okay, I guess the PA route isn't the route either. And so I
Yeah.
really did kind of like fall into a bit of a depression for the next 3 months because I had no plan B. This was my plan B, right? Like plan A
Right.
was like interior design, and plan B was like, okay, I'll stay in the medical field and do this. And I'm like, what do I do now? And at that time, it was more kind of like survival mode for me. I was a single mom, and I was like, didn't have the idea that I can have these passions and really like outside of just following this like the route, right? Or that you're
Right.
expected to
Right. The
in school
highway,
and
right? Like
the highway,
what's
right?
on here?
hmm So yeah, so after kind of like sitting with myself, like what's next? You have to move out of your parents' house. It was really hard with them parenting, or not parenting, trying to parent my daughter, right? But as grandparents, right?
Yeah.
And spoiling her and me trying to be a parent. That was very difficult.
Yeah. It's
So
conflicting, right?
it's conflicting, yeah, because they're great. They're great. But when I would try to reprimand her for something, it was like, no, she can do no wrong. Right? So that was hard. So I knew I just kind of like had to move on to the next thing. And then I was thinking maybe business can be the next thing. But that came at like a kind of like an aha moment. Um,
Mm.
so um, yeah, I was working. So when I went back to work um, after school, I got a job
Hmm.
in oncology. I was working part time at urgent care, but then like for a full time job, I went to oncology. At that time, as you see, I have big curly hair. I was actually transitioning from straightening my hair all the time and damaging my hair to really accepting my curls and my natural hair for my daughter and I. And
Yep.
creating just like formulating, because the science part of me was always there, formulating hair care products for me and her, just a gel curl cream. Um, and then when I got into oncology, I realized that I was talking to a lot of people about their hair because I'm walking in with all this hair and they're losing their hair, right? And I don't know if you're aware, when people go through cancer, their hair comes back usually curling, called chemo curls. So
Really? I did not know
Mhm.
that. How
Yeah, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so you can have, like, pin straight hair, and people would be, like, growing curly hair, and they're like, "What am I doing with this?" So I'd be giving, like, all this advice on curly hair. But it really wasn't until this one woman that really reminded me of my mom, just long, like, curls and just, this Hispanic woman that just kind of, like, looked like my mom in a way,
Mhm.
and, she was I went in to translate for her, for, like, our social worker that was telling her about her treatments and everything. She was just newly diagnosed, with cancer. And she was very quiet, which was a little unlike her, but I was thinking, "You're being told what your treatments are, it's a lot, right?" So,
Yeah.
um, but she wasn't even asking questions about what the social worker was talking about. And so I kinda sat with her at the end. I'm like, "Hey, I'm just gonna sit with her for a minute because I feel like something's off." And it was just like that moment had to happen, I feel like, because
Mhm.
I sat with her and I was like, "Hey, I know this is a lot, like, do you have questions? If you didn't ask any questions, I just wanna make sure that you're understanding everything, and or is there something else going on? Because I just feel like at that point, we had kinda built a little bit of a bond, right?"
Yeah.
So, she was like she did still the same thing, and she touched her hair, and it just, like, hit me in that moment. She's worried about losing her hair, like, she wasn't worried about, like,
Mhm.
the financial stress of it, losing her job, like, how it's gonna affect the family. She was worried about her hair, and I'm like, it was so hard for me not to be like, "Of all things, your hair," you know what I mean?
Yeah, but,
'Cause even
when things are hard to absorb, right? Like, you
yeah.
kinda latch on to
Mhm,
something
just
that
something.
feels like a more tangible thing, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably what it was, but then I realized at that moment I had something to share with her. I was like, "I can help
Mhm.
you with your hair, like, it's gonna grow back curlier." I mean, hers was like waves. It's gonna go back, it's gonna grow back curlier, and back then, I used to also alternate between wigs and just my hair to give
Mhm.
myself a break, and it's just like I
Yeah.
was trying not to straighten my hair, so, like, whenever I wanted it straight, I'd wear a wig. And so that day, I actually had a wig, and I'm like, "This is a wig," and she's touching it because I go buy the expensive ones. I'm like, "I will show you, like, where to get the right ones and how to, like, style them." So I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, I have this knowledge around hair care." And then my product was naturally based, or I was making it, plant-based and everything. I'm like, "Maybe this could be." It was, like, literally a aha moment, like, "Oh my god," like, I
Mhm.
share not only, like, the medical side of myself with her, but also I have this thing that can help her and, like, make her feel better, right? And just I can talk to her about hair care and all that stuff. So it was kinda like a light bulb moment, like, maybe I have something here where I could lean into
Yeah.
this product and make it, like, shelf stable and do other things. And then that's when I transitioned into kind of, like, entrepreneurship, and that started lighting me up. But it still felt scary,
Mhm.
because it was like an unknown world, right, to, like, do something on your own, but I stayed in that. I mean, so the business is called Lots of Liz Hair Care. It's on kinda pause right now because I mostly worked through it while working in the medical field, and so
Yeah.
having a product-based business through all of that is a little tough, right? The funding, all the things of it, and so I never really left my job to pursue entrepreneurship
Mhm.
until about last year. So
Okay.
that's kinda where it left me, you know, and in between that, like, I loved entrepreneurship so much that I did start another business with, um, can't even say with a friend really, it was just somebody that I knew was in business as well, and we were vending at the same place together, and, we decided, like, we would love to host events for women in business, and it ended up being really great for, like, the community. We had, like, 2 events. We scaled from 50 people to 130 people, and I really built out that brand, logo, all the things, and I was like, "This is lighting me up," like, starting a business, just the business world, like, I love this. That ended up going south a little bit because we were very different people. I was very, like,
Yeah.
system-wise, like, wanted all the right things, and she was more of a, like, want to make the money and not really wanting to, or didn't feel like we needed systems in a way, kind of there's a lot of, like, fishiness going on.
Yeah.
And my company even told me, like, "You should probably there's a lot of red flags here." Like, you would use money from, like, that collected from the events to, like, do stuff for the car and not tell me, and I'm just like, "Hey, you can't do that." Like, this is a
Mhm.
business partnership. Didn't want, like, a bank, like a
Yeah.
a not a bank, yeah, like she didn't want a business bank account shared. I'm like, "We need that." Like, "What do you mean?" So there was a
Yeah.
lot of, like, fishy things, but I thought, I'll get her more used to, like, the business stuff. I took courses and stuff in business too, just to get, like, that's a big thing for me too, is investing in myself. So I kind of knew more about entrepreneurship than I think she did too, and, um, it ended up being something I realized, like, I'm gonna end up in a bad place if I keep following this person and trying
Yeah.
to do business with somebody that doesn't wanna do the right things. But that still was part of me that was like, I realized how much I love building businesses and the branding behind it and all the things, which then led me into kinda looking at brand strategy to
Mhm.
support in that, and, that's kind of like where I am now, and the podcast was really like born out of just be needing a creative outlet right outside of that, and
Mhm.
being in a place of like, what can I do for fun that doesn't feel like work too much?
Yeah.
And also the fact that I left the medical field and I was missing my work besties, and I was missing people coming to my desk, and like just that little community, even though it could be stressful, right? But it also, I realized I missed that. So
Yeah.
that's where kind of like the podcast came in. And that's more of a fun thing for me.
Awesome. That is so cool. So it sounds like through almost throughout your entire life has been like ins and outs, ups, like not up and down, like good, bad, but kind of like try this, turn around, come this, let's do this. Okay, right now I just got to buckle down and do this thing. And then somewhat very quickly, you kind of like add something else in, which I love because I don't know if I'd heard the word multi-passionate until like last month. And
Yeah.
now I see it everywhere. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's because so many of us are that, right? Like it's not just the one thing. So, and I know you said like the with the hair products in the oncology department, it was an aha moment, but if you look back, do you have like a way of realizing, oh, this is the right thing? Like I just mean like intuition or something like that. That what is the aha that lets you know that okay, it's time to shift, it's time to do something else. Like how do you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, in that moment, and the funny thing is, I also kind of credit like having found my fiance around that time too, because we started talking when we started meeting. We met online. One of the big conversations we'd have was around like what we wanted for a future, and like is like the business world and like business. I'm
Mm,
like, yeah, I've always thought like I would like a business because right, the interior design that was going to be a business, right? If I really sit down and think
yeah,
of it, I never thought of it in the past like that, but it was like it would have been my own business of having an interior design business, and if I had if I was on TV, that was my show, right? It would have been like a business. And so I think I always had that in mind. And so we started discussing this, but I had no idea what that would be. I was like, yeah, maybe in the future, like we could start it. Like, it had to be fun. And it's just, you're meeting somebody new for the first time, talking about exciting things. It was kind of more of that. But like I knew I had it in my mind that I would eventually want some type of business and kind of navigate that world. But in the moment when I was with my cancer patient, it literally like I remember walking away from her and feeling so because if you would have just seen her face, she was so sullen. So like, I mean,
yeah,
imagine being there and
yeah.
getting tuberculosis and everything. She was just so sad. And when I started talking to her about her hair and like what we're gonna do, and I gave her my personal number, she just like lit up. And like, oh, I think about it now, it makes me emotional because she was just like that made her happy, right? And I'm like, I have this thing, I could be sharing this, I have this knowledge. I'm already constantly talking about hair care. And it really felt like this moment of like, wait a minute, I'm creating this and maybe this could be a business. Like I'm really like passionate about it at the moment. And I I literally as I walked back to my desk, I remember like getting teary eyed and it was really like emotional for me. It was like this moment of just it felt right. It felt like this is where you should go next. Um and so yeah, it was just this feeling, this that came with emotion, I guess, really.
Yeah. Did you feel the same thing with like the podcast or with your brand strategy business? Like, is it a
Yeah.
similar feeling that you've been following or has it been different every time?
I think it's been kind of similar actually, because with the brand strategy business, this is something that I was like, okay, well, my business, it's been hard to take off the business, the product-based business, because of with my fiance, he's like, well, you're not leaving your job until you can replace the income. But I'm like, but I can't replace the income if I'm only giving the business like half the time, right? Or less than half the time. So that was always kind of hard to grow the product-based business. I was doing good online, right? And I have it in some stores, but just to really scale it to leave my job,
Yeah.
that had always been hard. But in that time, I realized I was becoming kind of like known in my area and making a lot of connections for being in business and
Mhm.
kind of like what I would do in business and all the events I would go to. And it started like getting a lot of people asking me questions about business, people starting out their businesses, and that's kind of where I realized, oh wow, I'm giving all this knowledge away for free, right? Of like how to start your
Yeah.
business, and then realizing, oh, this is what you're doing wrong, this is what you should be doing. Like actually, you're a calm, relaxing brand, but your colors are giving like
Wild.
chaotic. Yeah. So like things like that. And then I realized, actually it took somebody that I was talking to about, they were they do activewear, and they were talking about their yoga pants and like the fabric they want, all this stuff, and I was kind of giving them feedback. And then at that point, I had given this person feedback for like months on their business, and they're like, "Well, you should really be like a business coach. Like you're so helpful." And it hit me. I'm like, I've given so much information, like it didn't even click,
It's
right? And
just
so,
practice clients, practice
right, exactly,
clients.
it was practice fun. So yeah, I even like created logos for people, and I don't want to like lean into logo making, but I've done all that just for free, thinking it was so fun. And it wasn't until he said it that I was like, "Oh my god, you're so right. I'm sitting here giving you free like information that like I could be charging on it and really like helping people in that way and making that a business, right?" So then that was where that aha moment came, right? Like that person had to tell me, like, you should do this, like you're good at it, like you've been helping me, like why are you giving this away for free, kind of thing. So that's kind of where that started. But then I realized that I wanted to be more credible in a sense, like it couldn't be just that I had a business and I think it's fun. So I did get some online, I did some online coursework to get certified as a brand strategist so that I can like learn a little more and I read books on it and stuff. So that's kind of where I've been leading in. And so I thought, okay, this is what'll take me out of the medical field. But it was still a slow grind. As I was trying to kind of like really solidify it, and like what I'm offering and all the things. So I'm getting a lot closer to it. Like I've launched the website and stuff, but I'm still really solidifying what my offer is going to look like. What am I focusing on? Like what really within brand strategy lights me up. I realize it's not the logo making,
Yep.
like the graphic part of it. It's really the feeling that it's evoking. And then also like now I want to niche down into brand strategy for health and wellness brands. So I'm going
Mhm,
to see
mhm.
about like, niching down further. So I'm still trying to like get the sense of where I'm going with this direction, but I feel like I'm almost there. And yeah, I'm hoping to really start trying to get clients like within the next month or so and really dive into
Nice.
that. Yeah.
I find it interesting, like you're saying, it's in the
Mhm.
feeling of
Yeah.
the brand, and that makes me think about interior design, right?
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
interior design is like, yes, it's the visual of it, but it's really like, how do you feel in this space?
Right. That's so true.
Like
Never
it
thought of it that
comes
way.
back
Yeah.
to
It comes back to that.
your
Yeah.
original desire, right?
Right, yeah, exactly, and that's where I feel like it's been feeling right as well because it was like I'm going back to design again, and even though I'm not, like, designing maybe the logo specifically, but I'm designing this brand to be and feel the way you want your customer, the consumers, or clients, or whatever to feel when they come to you and when they find you and stuff like that, and so yeah, so it does kinda go back to that whole, like,
Yeah.
design and the feeling of it and everything, yeah.
So a lot of people like me, it's like you're doing the one thing or you're doing the other thing. So I'm curious, like, how did you decide? Because I feel like that is like very wise, to stay in your medical career while you were building the product based business, because you hear everywhere, like, no, just leave and build your business. Like, it was your partner who was
I was
like,
gonna say, if it was
"Eh,
Abraham, I probably would have done that.
yeah.
Yeah. But for me, I think, well, it kind of goes back to being a multi-passionate, right? Like you, I mean,
Mhm.
I've heard of the word in the last few years, but it was always kind of like you have to have one thing in my mind where you have to have one thing that like highway to take you like in and listening to other people, right? Like, what are you doing or this and that? Like you can't really listen to other people. I realize that now. But for a long time it was like I have all these other passions, but I need to focus on this because this is the right path. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And for a long time that was the medical field. Um, and I think as I've grown up, right, and been able to kind of like dip into my passions in a way and really kind of like see this world outside of that. Um, I I didn't see being a multi-passionate as a good thing initially. I just thought like I'm scattered. I probably have ADHD. I don't know. Like, like I'm always I have all these new ideas and I just can't focus. And so it didn't feel like a good and positive thing for a long time. And it wasn't until really last year. Actually, I totally skipped out on one whole section of my life that I'm currently in now is I realized that the brand strategy business was gonna be kind of a slow grind as I picked it up and really decided on really realizing what I wanted to niche down into. Um, I ended up doing another thing, picking up another thing called high ticket remote sales. Ended up seeing
Okay.
something online about it, and I was like, okay, well, this can make me maybe some quick money, and then I can get out of the medical field and then really hone in on the businesses and make some money to invest in the business. So I ended up doing that last year. I think it was like June. I took an online course for it. By like 3 months later, I found like an offer and a client that I can like sell for as a 1099. And within 3 months, I was making more than I was making at my job. And so I was like, I'm leaving. so so I talked to my fiance. He was like, okay, I see this being a thing and making you enough money to cover bills and stuff, right? And freeing up my time also. So
Yes.
that's actually what I've been doing for the last 8, 9 months now to have gotten out of the medical field. So I got out of the medical field in January,
Okay.
because of the remote sales.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like, and I kind of forget about it because it's not a passion at all. It's just a way to make some extra money. It's commission based. So I can make good money in a short amount of time. And then all that extra time I have left, I'm devoted to businesses or to like, I'm not as much lots of lives right now because I'm like, I probably should be now, but now I'm really, really feeling more aligned with the branding. And in the podcast has been really fun. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
kind of want to do more of it too. So
That's amazing. So I know you mentioned briefly. Well, and it's also such a good example of like, okay, maybe don't leap before you have a plan,
Mhm.
but the plan can be to do something in the middle. And
Yeah.
you're like practicing these sales skills that
Mhm.
will help
Coming.
you no matter what you're doing, right? And especially probably with your consulting, your
Yeah.
brand consulting business, having this sales skill, because it's a thing that you have to practice.
Right. Yeah.
I know. I'm like, this is really hard.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I realized that when I started it, I was like, "Okay, this will be a quick, like, means to an end." But then I realized, "Oh, this is gonna come in handy when I'm pitching to clients and I'm trying to sell my services, right, and build the value and all the things." So then I realized, "Oh, this is actually helping me." So it's not super far off. It is helping
Yeah.
me with those skills. But yeah, but definitely doing it in between because I mean, luckily for my fiance, he kinda kept me on track, but even before then, right, like, when I did start the business, initially, I knew I was going to have to do both simultaneously, and then when I was going to school and working, right? It's
Yeah.
always been kinda like, I don't wanna leave one thing until I'm sure about the other thing.
Yeah.
That's always been big for me too.
Yeah, that's great. And I think like everything that I hear in your life is like you're doing, you're learning. You're doing, you're learning. You're doing, you're learning. It's like you're a perpetual student, right? Like
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you're like
I'm a
always
like yeah, I'm
learning.
a lifelong learner. Yep.
Ah,
I'm always reading, like oh, it's funny because 'cause I'll go, like one month I'll read a fun book, the next month it's like a self-help or business related book, and the next month a fun book, and then like I go back and forth like that because I just love learning. I love like listening to
yeah.
TEDx's and just learning new things. Like it's just yeah, I'm a lifelong learner, I like to say.
And that to me makes sense then why like a podcast sounded fun for you because like for me that's was my gateway to like self-help, like expanding like what's out there was podcasts because you're like, "Oh my gosh, there's like a million of them and they're
Yeah,
talking about like a thousand different things." I'm like,
right.
"This is amazing."
Yeah, I love listening to podcasts. And it's funny because when I was thinking about the podcast, it came out of the blue. Like that was something
Yeah.
that was just like that came out of nowhere. I still don't even know where that came out of. But I remember that I left my job in January and I was like, oh man, like I wasn't ever like the person to start drama at work or anything like that. That wasn't the case. I always think like people are gonna hear work drama and they probably think I was like the dramatic person in the office. And that really wasn't the case. But I was the Switzerland. I was like people would come to my
Yeah.
desk and know that and I would always make it a point, like, I had my work bestie, right, that I would go to her, like, "Oh my god, you wouldn't believe this," but I wasn't going around and saying it to the whole office, right? So people, like, really trusted me to come to me and listen to both sides of the story and give my own advice to them, and, like, it's funny because some people didn't know that the other person came to me too, so I just keep it very, like I was like, "I don't wanna be part of the mess."
Neutral.
Yeah, yeah, I wanna be neutral, and it's funny because at times it'd be stressful, like, I'm working in urgent care, I don't have time for, like, whatever drama you're going through about perfume. Like, that was one like, literally, we had a
Or
whole thing
whatever.
yeah, we had a
I'm gonna
whole
eat my
drama.
yogurt.
Yeah, stuff like that. But then it's funny when you don't have it, you kind of miss it. Like, oh man, like I'm here, like this is my office that I work in. And so when I'm taking calls or working on my business, I'm just here by myself. Nobody's coming to my desk, right? Nobody's like venting to me about whatever, or even just like, hey, what do you have going on this weekend? I missed it so much. And so I was constantly texting my old coworkers, like, hey, how's everything going? And then they, without prompting, they were like, you would not believe what happened today, right? And then I was like getting my fix in a way. And I realized like, wow, like this used to annoy me, but now it's like fun like, yeah, wait, what's going on with the manager today? Or what's going on? So it was like a bit of that. And then I was like, you know what? One of my favorite podcasts is called Normal Gossip. And I was like, maybe I could do kind of a podcast like normal gossip where they're talking about like gossip stories and whatever. But it's work drama, and then I can get my fix, and then I can stop annoying my old coworkers that are probably like, "Hey, you're not here anymore. Like,
Yes,
leave me alone." And then so I talked to my
I love
friend.
it.
Yeah, she's still in the in the field. She's not in the medical field, but my best friend is still working a 9 to 5. I'm now remote and kind of like even as a remote like a high ticket sales closer, I'm still self employed basically. I'm contracted with the companies that I work with. So it's really like solitary, right? So I'm like, why don't we do a podcast? You come in because I want somebody to like react to the stuff. I'll tell the story, like we'll source these stories, and then we'll react in real time, and it's just like fun. It's like, she's stressed with work drama like herself at her office, but she's like, I think I'm here and like this is not my drama, and I'm like, exactly, like it's not our drama, so we just get to talk about it, have fun with it. And it's just like a time we get to meet up every 2 weeks to do a story, and it's like I get to meet up with my best friend and just, like, chat and have fun with it, and yeah, it's been, like, a nice little, like, other outlet that I have.
Yeah, and I think I love it is that everything you do doesn't have to be serious,
Right.
right? Like, you can be doing a podcast that is serving you and your friend, but also there's gonna be lots of people who are like, "Ooh, I
Yeah.
also work for myself, like, by
Right.
myself. I would love
Yeah.
to hear this drama."
Right, yeah. It's funny because, yeah, I don't have a podcast that's, like, that's self-help in a way or anything like that. It's just fun. It's just like a fun thing, and it's funny because I was even thinking, like, as I get closer to really, like, starting to seek out clients for the brand strategy formula, for the brand formula business, um, I'm like, what are they gonna think when they hear if they find out about my podcast? Gonna they hear, like, this whole other side of me where I'm just like, we're swearing, we're, like, talking about all the things. Some of the stories we've gotten are, like, a little explicit. I try not to get too explicit in it, but there was one story where it's, like, some photos of like a manager or
Yeah.
whatever, and I had to kind of like lightly describe what the photo was because I was like, oh god, I don't want to say too much, like scare away people. But yeah, but I'm just like, how are those two worlds going to coexist? And I'm just still figuring that out. I'm actually not too worried about it, but it didn't pop up in my head. I'm like, it's two different worlds, right? Like they'll
Yeah.
get the strategy for me, they'll see that it works, all this stuff, and then if they find out about the podcast, it's just another side of me, right? Another like another, I don't know, but that has come up for me.
That's funny. Yeah, but I feel like that's a thing that makes you unique too, right? Like people, yes, want the strategy, but they also are going to be people who vibe with you. And that's another way to get a different taste of who you are, like in your multitudes, in
Mhm.
the multi-passionateness of it, right?
And that's why I
And
feel like
like,
being remote detection, it can work, right? Because like I can do
yeah.
this as serious role of being a strategist, but I can also have fun and like do the and it's just like and then it makes me feel whole, you know?
Well, and who knows? Somebody might be like, "Oh my gosh, I've been dreaming about a podcast forever, and Elizabeth can help me because she makes her own, not only just brand, we can also figure out how do I pull a podcast into that and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
everything
right.
else."
Exactly. I can have people that are building podcasts and I can be helping with the branding around that, which actually one of my clients that I worked on, and this was like when I first started, I do have some paid clients that I've worked with before. One of them is a podcaster. It's a doctor who's doing a podcast on talking about different health things, and I help do their logo and make their brand colors and stuff. So yeah, I found a podcaster already on my roster as a
Yeah.
client.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and now you have even more experience.
Right, now I can be really talk about, like, the back end of it and stuff too. I mean, the way that I work I realized too, learning about more of the podcast world is, like, different platforms you can use and how people use different things. So I'm still trying to learn a lot about it, because I go to a studio where everything's, like, already there, so, that was a nice thing too. That really aligned really well. That was really weird because
Yeah.
I had when I told my friend about it, she was just like, "Okay, yeah, I'll show up and do the" she knows that I'm, like, the business brain behind everything, like, she's like, "I'll just show up and react," like, and that's all I really expected. But, she I told her, I was like, "Okay, so I looked into everything it's gonna cost, like, I forgot how many thousands of dollars to buy all the equipment and everything, and I figured I'd do it here in my office." And, I ended up going to I signed up for this free headshot thing,
Okay.
for me and my
Mhm.
daughter. My daughter was in her first year of college, and I was like, "Hey, I wanna refresh my headshots for business," as I was preparing for the brand strategy business, and I was like, "This would be good for you too, just to kind of, like, for your resume or whatever. Let's just go and get these pictures, and they're free." So we went, and that's when I saw the studio in there, and they were actually doing the free photo shoots so that people to promote their studio and to promote what they were doing. And they have more than just a podcast studio there. It's really like podcast and singing studio, but they have other things. They have 3D printers. It's like a very creative space. And when I saw the podcast studio, it was like 2 months after I brought it up to my friend and like started doing the pricing and trying to figure it out. Yeah, and that was another like boom. I'm like, this is they're like, so this is like people become members and then they can use this off of yeah. They're like, yeah, you can use everything. I'm like, but specifically this office, right? And I was like, okay, this is really weird. I know I came in here talking about brand strategy, but I really want to start a podcast and I need all that. He's like, yeah, come on in. And so it just like aligned and it was just like, oh, this is perfect. So then I called up my friend, like I found a studio, like, and all I have to do is become a member. And I'm like super excited about becoming a member there because they were doing so much for the community and stuff too. They actually ended up my daughter as a freelancer. She's going to college for film and they ended up hiring her. So we both became members because she could do film work there. And now they hired her. But they're just doing so many great things. And I told them I would love to volunteer for when they do workshops around entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So now we're just kind of like working together, but I get to use the podcast room and I was able to launch it without having to, dish out all the thousands of dollars I thought I was going to. So it just ended up happening quicker than I thought, right? And it was just like it aligned again. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God. So
Everything fell into place.
fell into place. And it all started with like free headshots that I thought I was doing for the brand formula, which I'm
Yeah.
actually still waiting on. There's still,
That's
I
what
just messaged
happens when
them
they're
to
free, right? Sometimes
yeah,
it
they're
takes a
free.
while.
That's why I was like, I don't want to push it, but at this point, I think it was like back in February that we took the headshots. And I'm like, so I asked like
Oh,
last
that is
week.
long.
Yeah, I was like, I'm really trying to like update the website before I launch it with these new photos. Like, can you please? Because I had a specific like clothes I was wearing to match the
Yeah,
color scheme and everything of like the brand formula. So I'm like, I really need these pictures now. But I'm like, you don't want to be too pushy when it's free.
I know, right? But that is long. What, 4 months?
Mhm.
Long
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
Um, well, amazing. So, is there anything that we didn't get a chance to talk about that you really wish we had, and or is there anything that's really lighting you up right now that you're like, oh, I just want to tell people about it, or come help me build this thing?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think maybe one thing that I do want to touch on a little deeper is just the fact that, in entrepreneurship, if somebody is trying to go into entrepreneurship and you're feeling like you need a partner, you want to do this with somebody, just do your due diligence. I really fell in love with like the business that I created with that other entrepreneur. At the time, I was like, "Oh, this is something that I thought I could do when I started really making connection in the business world was doing events for women in business
Yeah.
and just like because so I'm in Connecticut and where in Connecticut, I'm in the northeast corner. It's kind of like the quiet corner. We're kind of far from New Haven and all the big cities that people
Hmm.
kind of associate Connecticut with. And so there's not a lot out here for us in this corner when it comes to entrepreneurship. So I'm always traveling to like New York and the New Havens and all the things. So I was like, oh, this is something that I thought of about in my head, but until I spoke to this girl, I was like, "Oh, maybe we could do this together," because it felt like a lot to take on. But I didn't really vet anything out, right? I didn't really like. I just knew she had a product-based business as well. I didn't really know too much about it. She was like doing these shirts with like the crickets and stuff. And she just seemed really nice. But then once we started really working together and I realized, okay, I'm trying to make this an established business and get an LLC and do the business banking and do all the things. And she wasn't aligned. And then using the money in the wrong way, it was going to her account, which I couldn't see. Just a lot of red flags are popping up. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt because I tend to
Yeah.
trust. That's a big thing for me too. Is like I usually trust people until you give me a reason not to trust you, which I
Yeah.
know other people are like the opposite way, but
The
that's always for
opposite.
me. Yeah. So even when my fiance's like, hey, like she shouldn't have used that money because that money that she ended up using for that first event was supposed to go to our event person, like the event
Yeah.
space. So I thought everything was paid for. And then I just happened to ask, like everything's all set, right? Because I can't see the account, right? And I'm trying to do all the math myself and I'm trying to do spreadsheets without actually seeing the real numbers. And that's when she finally told me that she had used like $400 to buy tires. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, so now we owe money? And she said, no, but so then I was like, okay, I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. She needed tires, right? Like maybe there was an emergency. I don't know. I was just kind of like, I didn't want to like spin out about it. But I was like, we need to discuss things like this. I get it, but like, we can't use the
Yeah.
money like that. This is for the business. We have to, the way this type of business works is like, we need to source the money, pay the vendors, and then have the event. Like we need to know where the money's going kind of thing. And it was kind of I was really made to feel throughout the time with her. I think it was more like maybe 6 or 7 months of working together that I wasn't good in entrepreneurship and that I didn't know what I was talking about and that maybe I was taking things too seriously. So I ended up feeling like
Yeah.
it it just wasn't a good partnership and I should have done my due diligence beforehand and really kind of like vetted it out because it turned into we were doing news segments, radio segments, like all it got big quick.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of it, she did something kind of like illegal. At that point, I had already separated from her, but we were kind of still in association because we created this business together. And I had to come out on my business page and make a statement because I was like, I have not been associated with this person. It turned into this big thing. And I'm like, oh my God, like what
Oh my
did I
gosh.
do? Like I associated my name with this person and I didn't even look into it beforehand. So just doing your due diligence and being careful with who you're going into business with. I mean, and even now with the podcast with my best friend, that has been great, but also it's been kind of like I should have really had a better conversation with her about how comfortable she doesn't do really social media or anything. So sometimes she shows up, but she's not fully like engaged and stuff. So I'm just like, oh, I don't want this to ruin our friendship, but I want to give you feedback, you know? So it's just kind of like, I don't know, but we are having a lot of fun with it. But it's like when you go into business with a friend, how comfortable are you having the hard conversations?
Yeah.
So just when it comes to business, just doing due diligence and really thinking about who your partners are and stuff. I think that's really important.
Well, and maybe like setting some boundaries and some
Yeah.
expectations
Hmm. Yeah, for
before
sure.
you start so that everybody has an idea of how it's going to work. Because I would have assumed probably just like you that yes, business account, LLC, all that, that's normal,
That's normal stuff.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was normal. So yeah. So really set an expectation. I probably should have sat down with her and spoken about like all
Yeah.
the expectations business wise because she was like, "Oh yeah, you have the business brain." So I kind of went into it being like, "Okay, I'll do the systems then," and you can be. She wanted to be like the speaker and like the one with the mic, and I'm like, I don't want to be that person. So we kind of had these roles, but then when I was trying to implement my role and what needed to be
Yeah.
done, it was like, "No, we don't need that. That's too serious." I'm like, "That's not. No, we need to have these things." So yeah, it was tough. But then it also like, although it messed with me at the time, kind of like, am I being too much? Am I being like, maybe I don't know what I'm doing? Maybe, she really had me questioning myself.
Mhm.
The thing too was like the stress of it was making me physically sick. I got exploratory surgery from the body pains I was having. Didn't couldn't explain it. I
Okay.
was so stressed. Anytime I had to speak to her, I was getting really stressed out. And I had just had all these pains and aches in my body that I couldn't explain. And when I left the business, all of that went away. And I realized, wow, like stress can really affect your body. Like you hear it, especially when you're in the medical field, but
No, it's the business.
it was the business. Once we cut ties, like I just felt so much better and I felt so much more peace. So yeah, which sucks because the business really did a lot of good for people. So mm,
So interesting. And what a great learning opportunity too,
yeah,
before
yeah.
you start growing other things and building other things.
Mhm. Yeah, and it really made me remind myself, like, actually, I am good at entrepreneurship, and that's why that showed me. At the moment, I was like second guessing myself, but then once I got over like the emotional aspect of it, I'm like, no, I was right. Like, I know what I'm doing, and so like, let's keep going. Like, because I almost just stopped everything. I was just so like upset about it, and I was really second guessing myself, and yeah. And then when that whole like thing happened, when she got in trouble, I was like, oh no, like this is gonna make me look bad too, I think. And so I was just like going down the rabbit hole with it all, but yeah, but it really was a teaching moment to remind me that I've done coursework, right? I've learned the stuff. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. And that I just have to trust myself with it.
Yeah. Amazing. That's what all of us need to work on, right? Trusting ourselves,
Trusting ourselves.
trusting
Yeah.
everything we've learned along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And trusting. Yeah. Even with this, like this podcasting, it feels so kind of like out of left field to me still, but it is, it's lighting me up. And it's like, I want everybody to know about it and just have a place to just kind of like decompress from everything else in the world, which sounds a little weird because we're talking about work drama, right? And maybe some trauma kind of stuff, but it's like supposed to be kind of fun, right? And it's supposed to be, and we anonymize the stories and everything, so I might make them a little more fun with it, and but it's just a place to kind of escape everything else, and so. Well, yeah, I'm trusting myself that it is something that I mean, it is something that I love, but like I'm trusting myself that like I can do both. I can be both
Yes.
people, both personas, and still kind of keep doing things that I love. So it's been fun. It's been a fun journey.
Yes. And it seems like it's just part of the route. We'll see where you
Mhm.
land, right? Or
I
not.
know.
Just keep
Yeah.
working.
Right. That's where I'm at now too. It's like now that my daughter's out of like where she can kind of take care of herself and stuff, and she's an adult basically at this point. now it kind of feels like I'm starting over in a way of like, what do I want to do? Like now it's like time for me, and I'm still young. I'll be 39 this year, and I'm like, I still have like a long way to go. Like, what is this next chapter of my life going to be, and like, what am I going to create? So that's been fun too, to know that now I can dive in, and I feel a lot more comfortable doing so. I don't feel like I need to stay on this path because even when I was starting the podcast and the brand strategy stuff, I was like, what are people going to think? Like, I can't focus, that I can't do one thing. Like, what happened with lots of Liz, and all this stuff. And I'm getting to a point where like I don't even care. Like I feel so happy. I'm like, I don't care what they think. Like I'm just gonna do my thing.
That's amazing. Beautiful. Thank you so much
Of
for
course.
coming and sharing your wisdom and your story. And if people are curious, where would you like them to find you?
They can find me on, well, on TikTok. I have my work drama, kind of like little community I'm building there. So it's work underscore drama underscore. So I tend to kind of do little like point of view talking points, and sometimes I'll drop little like things from the podcast, like little snippets of it. And then that's kind of where everybody tends to go to also like learn when the next episode is going to drop. We drop every 2 weeks for work drama. And yeah, outside of that, I mean, I have thebrandformula.com is my website. It is up, but I'm still kind of like refining it. So if somebody is looking for a brand strategy in their business, they can find me at thebrandformula.com, and they can always just put in like an inquiry. And but yeah, but I'll be uploading stuff soon. I have a couple digital products also, which you can just do yourself, and you can start there. And then if you're feeling like you need further support, then that could be a conversation that like we can have. But yeah,
Beautiful. Amazing. And we'll put all the links in the show notes. That way people can just go click.
yeah, yeah, true. It's easy for them.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thanks everybody for listening. And if you've enjoyed this episode, go listen to Lizbeth's podcast, like, subscribe this show, and rate if you have a minute. It really helps. So thank you everybody, and see you next time.